introduce ourselves again, but today the panel, this session is all about how to get the competitive edge. I think on the original agenda it said eggs in one basket. I just felt it was a bit too close for breakfast, and it was going to make me hungry. So it's how to get the competitive edge, and we're going to start with you introducing yourself.
Hi, I'm Danny, Head of Performance Media at Launch, and I will say my favourite biscuit is a hobnob, chocolate hobnob. Must be in the fridge though, which is slightly controversial with all my colleagues. Biscuits in the fridge, what are you doing? But yeah, got to be in the fridge. There's some nods. Okay.
No, it wasn't a nod.
Yes. Don't just sat next to Josh. No.
Excellent. Hi everyone, I'm Ian, I'm the Head of Data and Analytics at Launch. My favourite biscuit has to be a cookie, a Maryland one. I would delete an entire packet if my wife would let me, but yeah, they're the best.
Hi everyone, I'm Joe, Head of Conversion. I was going to say the same as you, Danny, and I feel like I can't repeat that, so I'm going to change my answer.
Well, out of the fridge.
No. And this is actually inspired by another Lola. So mine is the M&S rounds, the really dense chocolatey rounds, but specifically the orange flavour. Yeah.
Rick, God, one
Twist
of your
in the
5
end
a
there.
day as well.
Yeah.
No cost of living crisis happening on this panel, clearly. So these guys are in the weeds of the accounts every single day. They're trying to get performance for all of our clients. They're seeing things across travel, e-commerce, B2B. What I want to hear is how are people getting a competitive edge? So the first question to you guys is, what is the biggest opportunity to drive sales this peak?
I think the guy said it earlier. I think it's starting now. I think starting from a paid media aspect. I think it's definitely don't have too much of a massive spike. I think from October to November on budget. I think it needs to be higher now. I think some of the stats. I want to jump on Mohammed's presentation, but the Google event I went to the other week, it was 25% of Christmas shopping will already be done by mid-October. People will be, generic searches are increasing now in October to drive the brand in November. So yeah, it's definitely been here now. I also think the other thing is then being smart with the budgets. I think not wasting spend, being smart with the budget, but only when you can back it up with the data that's there. I think that's the biggest key, is making sure that you understand the data that's coming in and the data's clean, to make sure that machine learning from a Google aspect can do what it needs to do. Are you putting, and then the smartness of the budget is, are we putting the budget behind from an e-commerce perspective, the 20 products that are driving 90% of revenue? Do you know that? Is that where you're seeing the biggest driver? But without the data and the conversion side of it, you kind of don't know that.
I was going to add to that actually, the data does need to be quality, obviously everyone knows that, but platforms are getting so much more smarter. You know, you've got PMax for Google, you've got Advantage Shopping for Facebook. The machines are there and they're learning. Things like GA4 are so powerful. The data needs to be good, it needs to be quality, it needs to be fed in. You know, if you're feeding the machine the wrong data, then the decisions are going to be based on those wrong data as well. It really needs to be clean and worthy, which then works with the conversion side of things.
We've seen it previously with clients where cookie banners have failed and things like that, where from a PMax or smart shopping side of it, where it was previously, the angle of this is the customer basis that we're going to go after, because we know these are going to convert and this is where you purchase. As soon as that data fails, that's when it starts to struggle to spend, and then the big question is the emails and the phone calls start coming in going, why are we not spending, why are we not in target? Because the data's forcing everything to be wrong and incorrect.
So yeah, for the conversion side of things, I suppose it's slightly different because it takes a bit longer to steer the ship with a website because there's maybe a bit more to do, and so the narrow window you have in peak, which can sometimes be weeks, not even months, it's very hard to be agile with a website. So controversially, it's kind of the best time to start would have been a long time ago with conversion optimization, but there are things you can still be doing now to get yourself ready for peak, such as, I would say, focusing in on, honing in on those pages which are going to get the highest volumes of traffic, the ones that you think are going to get the most eyeballs, and then spending your time just focusing on those pages. And you might not have time now to do that kind of deep data research, user testing, qualitative research, that kind of thing. But you can still using like best practice reviews and heuristic analyses, you can still put together what looks like a much better page, just from to use a horrible phrase, low-hanging fruit, but it is true. Like, you know, you
That's
can.
where big go.
But there are some things which you can immediately spot on a page which should be improved, things like social proof or things that are getting in the way of a good user experience, which can easily be ironed out in a matter of sort of weeks. So, I mean, in the ideal world, it would be that you started 12 months ago, and even planning for next year's peak, starting now and building that groundwork of a solid CRO program that will enable you to do that deep research, to A/B test the templates on your website so that when you do get to peak next year, you know which pages are going to perform the best ahead of time.
Because for some of our clients, they might get in one quarter 50% or 60% of that annual traffic. So now having that measurement on there and the, I don't know, you're probably going to say Microsoft Clarity or something like that, to be able to at least understand what happens this peak, to be able to then change things in time for next peak.
Yeah.
So that long-term planning.
That's a really good point. Yeah. So adding tools which now will collect that data that you can then look back on that period and say how did things change, or what could we observe which we can take into account for next year's peak or for future. Yeah.
Clarity's free as well. Right?
It is free. Yeah.
So, Ian, this is your moment. Data.
Yeah.
What way do you find that data can change the impact of a campaign? What are what does excellent look like now? Bear in mind, this is, I don't know, the 4th or 5th event that we've done in Bristol. The first 3, I think, focused on the cookieless world that is kind of here sort of now. What does data excellence look like now?
So it's interesting because we are moving towards a cookieless world, but the first thing that data excellence or a good setup would be is firstly is to be cookie compliant at the moment, because the cookies are still there, and we've seen it before with clients where they may have a cookie banner but it's just not working correctly, and Google can pick up on this, and we've seen emails that have come through and said, you know, you're not cookie compliant, you've got a certain amount of days to fix this, otherwise we'll pause all of your ads, and it's regardless of spend. So it is really important to make sure your cookie banner is working. It's actually having the logic in place to prevent these cookies from setting when a user lands on the website. And then that does help with the data, because if it's not working correctly, you might see traffic coming through as a high number of direct or certainly unassigned. That starts coming through on GA4. I know there's loads of questions like that at the moment. So firstly start with cookie compliance, but then we move on to actually robust tracking itself, making sure that the tracking that you're putting in place isn't going to break easily. Moving away from old style tracking like thank you page views and confirmation page views that are really easily, that could double count and so forth. But then utilising the software. So GA4 is incredibly powerful, especially for a free tool. A lot of people here are probably a bit annoyed about it at the moment, but it's very good to set it up, and it links with the rest of the Google ecosystem. Things like BigQuery, where you can store your data, because GA4 only holds up to 14 months worth of data for granular reporting and Explore, so you need to have that link to BigQuery set up as well. And things like enhanced conversions, they're incredibly powerful for Google Ads, and that's first party data as well. That's users providing that information to you straight at that conversion point, at that checkout. Take that information, they're filling out that form, or they're filling out that checkout form for you, and feed it into Google Ads, so Google Ads can learn it much better. I think that's the 3 key points for me at the moment.
Amazing. What data? What's the difference that data makes for you?
I think it's pretty much the same as what I said earlier in terms of making sure that we've got the insight from the data that is correct and it's right. Otherwise, performance max will fail from an e-commerce perspective, and search will struggle. And then it's just putting those micro conversions that potentially will be there if you are using them, making sure that there's physical numbers off the back of it. If you haven't got in e-commerce and you're looking at lead gen, and down there may be a travel lead gen that you're thinking down that route of, but let's do some proxy values and look at ROAS and how we can model that a bit better as well, and how we can drive that machine, because I think that's the thing. It's everybody sees Google as this. It is an advertising platform, but the machine that is behind it is powerful, and it can work, and it's just again understanding the data. I think excellence is making sure that you as advertisers and as like direct client facing, you understand the data that's there as well. It's making sure that you can make sense of it, tell a story with what is there, and push it right.
Yeah, just to add to that, you mentioned about conversions as well, and I think there's a very valid point here that we've seen clients before where conversions in GA4, there's like 25 of them, and it needs to be looking at what's a micro conversion or what's a secondary conversion. Conversions really should be the point that is the pinnacle of that user journey. It's filling out a lead, or it's purchasing something, or if you're a charity, it's making that donation, or it's that final point. Other conversions which are important should be set aside as secondary or perhaps events within GA4. So Google's not thinking that you've got a load of conversions and it's learning from a load of different behaviours as well.
Yeah, there's a two thought process of being able to mix them up and try it. I do tend to lean with I love the e-commerce conversion, end conversion, revenue done, ticked goal. I just think it learns a lot faster, and then it's understanding from a shopping and e-commerce side of it, where's the an excellence thing that you mentioned there, Joe, was looking at like what is the plan that you're going to do, and I think stick to it through peak. I think that's the other thing. I think that if you've got a plan of we want to hit this ROAS through peak, don't either shy away from it a bit if you need volume, but don't be prepared. You've got to be prepared for ROAS to drop. I think that's the thing. Don't be scared that actually we need to hit this ROAS. Well, volume's going to be a bit of an issue as well. Have a plan, stick to it, and kind of stay through it. But obviously, you can't have all your cake and eat it.
Yeah,
Not
or eggs in one
I
basket.
nearly said eggs in one basket. Nearly said it. Didn't say
Had your
it.
opportunity there to go for it.
And for B2B and travel to a certain extent, where there isn't necessarily an e-commerce element early on in that journey of people just looking at itineraries and having value-based bidding, assigning a value and being confident with that value to model what it then could look like that's helping the machine.
And I think B2B is where like the UX side of it also slips in as well, of how like we can have the values there and work really well, but we've done a lot of B2B work with clients where their pages are just changing the form or either extending it for quality reasons or reducing the amount of data that we're asking for a customer. It's more your bag, but it's
it's also B2B tends to some ways follow B2C trends eventually, because everyone, like you were saying earlier, people are people. If their experience and their use of the internet generally as a consumer is on B2C websites, they start to expect the same level of quality and data privacy and the kind of how much people are asked for detail-wise on B2B websites as well. So so that's something to bear in mind. But going back to the question about data excellence, from a conversion perspective, our kind of holy grail is always to be able to say that we conducted this test on your website, and as a result of that, we've increased your revenue by X. Like, we can prove that this change, and that is such a good thing to be able to say, and so satisfying for the client to be able to go, yes, all of that work we've done, we can prove it. Or on the other flip side, that we can say we've saved you from implementing a really costly mistake. Because if you had implemented this without knowing what the risk was, you would have lost money. So there's the kind of both sides to it. But there's no way you can do that without having a robust tracking setup. And that, but one of the best things about having Ian in the team and Owen and Darcy is that we can really quickly be able to say, we've got a new VWO instance that we need to set up. We need to get these 5 metrics tracked so we can start A/B testing, and we can do it really quickly. So, and then we can have trust in those numbers when we report them back. So, yeah.
We have also Jan from VWO in the room, and I will, at the end of this, talk about lunch afterwards. We've got lunch over in the W3. I don't know what W3 stands for, but it's in a room over there. So do hit Jan up to be able to have a conversation about A/B testing platforms. VWO is an A/B testing platform, in case you didn't know. Joe, I've got a question for you here, which is, in fact, it's for all of you, but you're obviously working in an agency that has like the perfect trifecta of conversion, paid media driving the traffic, and then the data and measurement. What are the common mistakes that you're seeing marketing teams make when it comes to performance marketing?
Two things, but one of them I've kind of just noticed recently, and it's kind of been brought to my attention just from conversations I've had with people in the industry, and I noticed on the first panel what I loved is that how many times the word testing was used, and like that is that's exactly what the whole point of conversion optimization is, and I feel like sometimes conversion optimization or conversion rate optimization, or CRO, has a bit of a branding and identity problem in that people think of it as being something that is sometimes UX and sometimes it's quite nebulous and hard to define, but it is, at its heart, it's testing, it's experimentation, and people sometimes think about testing as something that's only done in the upper funnel or in discovery or in trying to generate leads in the advertising social space, but really it should be a mindset that you're carrying all the way through that journey, and so thinking about experimentation rather than CRO is quite a useful way, and sometimes a flip that's like a bit of mind acrobatics you do to try and get around that problem of assumptions. But the other one was, quickly, not being bold enough with your tests. Can we stop testing button colours, please? So, a good A/B testing program should have a kind of mixture of really iterative small changes, so sometimes that's fine, but as long as it's complemented with some which are kind of medium risk, and then some big, scary, big, risky, like completely redesign your checkout or completely redesign your homepage, why not? We can measure it and we can see what the outcome is, so take the risk and see what happens.
I love that.
I think really good to add to that as well, one of the biggest mistakes we're seeing, certainly when I'm talking to clients from a data perspective, is some clients would see as these three different silos that we've got at the moment, but it should all be one. It should all be together, where it's conversion, it's data, and it's paid as one circle. Because if you
one customer journey,
customer journey, because it's all about how it's all learning. It's all about how we're testing, what is the data saying, and then the performance behind it. And if you split that out or have a different budget for it doesn't talk to each other. It doesn't work. So when we're talking to clients now, we're sort of saying that this is what you get. This is the three-pronged approach, because it's proven, it works, and I think that's a mistake that people are seeing as well.
Yeah, I think to back in with Ian is exactly that. It's because without the data, we can't make those decisions. Where there's a couple of clients we've spoken to this week, or potential new clients, where we are having to put a plan in place of there is a third of the budget now needs to go on just generic top of the funnel stuff to try and drive that brand, which you were going back to in your first point earlier on, which we need to drive that brand, or if you carry on doing the same, you'll still be getting the same as you do the year after, and you've not grown. Yeah. And brand is not going to increase, and it's going to decrease, and those customers are, because brand loyalty is disappearing from the guys that I said earlier, that they will walk away and will go and try something else. So there is a big element of, I need the website to convert, I need the data to be clean, but then we need to have the confidence to be able to look at those numbers, to be able to go, right, we need to put 10k of it a month into non-ROAS target driving, but we will get there will be revenue out of it that then I'll have a knock-on effect in 2-3 weeks time. And again, it's time. That's the other thing, I think, from Becky's over there, but from creative, from social side of it, it's too many changes too often. That can be the same for Google as well. That can cause machine learning to go all over the place as well.
Changing the sale message every 2 days.
Yes. Please do not.
And just another thing I wanted to say was, whilst we talk a lot about how important the data is, and it is very important, but it's important for analysts and it's important for us that deal with it. We're data from the other perspective, if we're looking at dashboards and stuff, sometimes too much data from that side of the thing can you wouldn't be able to see the wood from the trees. So I think it's really important from that side, where we're displaying data, is to pick what's really important to you. We'll perhaps do like a workshop and what conversions are meant to work, what's the best thing about it, and then if something doesn't look right, then we delve down into it, then we start to look into the data more deeply, because all of that's there, it can sit there. It doesn't need to all be on Looker Studio, it doesn't need to be on Power BI, it doesn't need to be on that. It needs to be the high level overview, and then we can look at it and go, right, this isn't working, have we tested it? No, okay, let's test it, let's delve into it that way.
The other mistake, I'd just add the other mistake that I'd throw in there as well. It's not necessarily a mistake, but some of the new clients that have approached us, not using, from an e-commerce perspective, not using a shopping feed management. I don't get not, like, especially when shopping has gone down the route of using the machine. What levers can you pull if you can't edit titles and be testing imagery and going from lifestyle to product shots, to be looking at the back end attributes that are there? If you're not using it, it just blows my mind that people are not using it.
I mean, once we get Danny onto shopping
Sorry.
feed management, we might be here for the rest of the day. But I think that you're making a very good point there.
Yeah.
Can you just reiterate for the people in the room who do have e-commerce and have shopping feeds, what are you saying can be done and how is it done?
I think you looking at the titles, looking at the descriptions from a Google aspect. I know that product type works really well. Like you don't have to use it, you don't have to structure by it. We try to do everything from our side of it. Use the labels. If you've the amount of audits we've done on accounts where labels are stacked out with everything, and it's like, okay, what are the labels there for? They're there for nothing. Like that, nobody's using them. They're not structuring the Google Ads campaigns by the labels. So use them. So look at performance-based rules within a feed management software. Look at adding. There was an uplift, I think. There's a client in the room that I know got a 26% uplift on click-through rate from just changing the background image from white to a coloured to match the product to stand out a bit more. Especially when you are a brand that may have other stockists spinning the image a different way and changing it, and looking at all the attributes. I think we use Shoptimize as an agency, and yes, there is loads of other feed management software out there, but that for us gives us everything that we want to be able to twist and
Because then you can also change it by channel as well.
Yeah,
like.
so that's what we do. So I work with Becky to go, okay, what does Google want? So the team have got a Google feed that comes in, then we push it out for Pinterest, we push it out for Meta, we push it out for any other marketplaces that we want to use. We've got all those channels split, changed differently to work better.
We've got a couple of minutes left for questions, which I do want to go, but very quickly, very quickly, a client has two goals: want new customers and ROAS. I mean, they are goals that conflict with each other. What do you say? New customers and ROAS at the same time in peak periods.
Can't do it all. We can have a go. You won't be able to do it all. I think it's using the budget, splitting it, and understanding where are we going to get the low-hanging fruit, the quick wins. Another one, boom. Where can we get the quick wins? Where can we get what if it's an e-commerce side of it? What are we selling? What are their you start going down shopping route of what their best sellers are and not necessarily what the best sellers are on Google Ads.
So this is why you needed to book a one-to-one. Which I don't know if anyone actually did. Last time in March, lots of people booked it, got free sessions with our team. So I'm going to cut you off there just so you can see that Danny will be around later, the whole team will be around later. Go and ask him questions, find out, how you take those two conflicting goals and marry them.
Sorry.
But now, no, that was good. I just wanted a little snippet and it was perfect. Right, we're going to go to questions. Here we go, roving Mike. There we go. So this is roving Mike with a mic. It's not Mike. We've got a question. Oh, Brian, I'm not going to throw it.
I'll go along.
Okay.
Please.
I felt under pressure to ask a question because I mentioned earlier. Can I just say something first? We've been talking about testing loads, and I completely agree that we should test everything, but just to caveat that with that we shouldn't test anything. So I know that this is what Becky and Joe and the wider team mean, and it's just you've got to test things that you've gained, you've uncovered evidence, developed a hypothesis, you've got a good reason for testing that thing, and that's why you then test it. Not just, I wouldn't want people to go out of this room and then just start redesigning their homepage just because they feel like changing something. But can you guys, put you on the spot, is there anything interesting that your clients at the moment are testing? Don't have to name the client, obviously, but just are they using data in a different way? Are they trying something different in their shopping campaigns? Are they doing something different on a website? Just anything that you can tell us about that they're currently up to that's interesting, something you've not necessarily seen much of before. And I realise I have put you completely on the spot.
Well, I wouldn't say this is kind of more of an organisational shift that I've seen rather than say like the expression on the website, but in terms of the way that the ideas are generated, it's becoming more collaborative and more collegiate in terms of the way that we're. So, for example, with clients now, instead of just having a one-on-one conversation with our main point of contact, we try as best as we can to involve as many other people within that company that are kind of, say, website adjacent, so people who are either in charge of customer service or sales or marketing, or have any kind of vested interest in how that experience should be, and try and involve them and talk to them about what they are seeing and their kind of and what they're hearing from customers, and that the kind of enrichment in the ideas that you get from having that kind of conversation is massive. So that's not really like a end product thing, which I can say add this feature to your website, but it is a flip you can change in terms of process that will definitely enhance the volume and the quality of ideas that you can generate for testing.
And I think from a data perspective, we've got a client that is, it's not really testing, but it's kind of is. So they're talking to us at the moment about creating a user journey mapping, just using something like Looker Studio, but using Google Tag Manager to track touch points across their website and things that they might see in GA4, but just to be a bit more specific about it. And we're having those workshops of where does a user begin and what looks like a conversion to them. And the plan is we haven't doing it yet, but it's a good conversation to have. We're chatting about it, and what they want to see, their ideal thing is to have this dashboard where it points to where the users are touching it, and if there's any more that are abandoning the journey or dropping off. And I guess that then we can spot things, either something's happening on this page or something's wrong here, when they'll talk to you about A/B testing or user experience as well. So that's quite cool at the moment. I'm quite interested in doing that.
Nice. I might move on to Becky's question now, but for all of you in the room who feel slightly sick that there's a typo on the screen, the first person that tells me the typo gets a box. There you go. There you go, Rob. Pass it back to Rob. I mean, Laughing John was a disaster, but giving Ian the wrong title, I feel slightly sick. But we can't edit it real time, so we're not going to. And I'm going to pass the mic to because Becky's got a question.
So mine isn't a question, but mine's about something that's working really well, which is really quite simple to do. And it's some of my clients with their dynamic catalogue ads in Meta, adding borders, or so that might be a border. You just upload it in automatic overlays over the product feed. But you can do things like pay with Klarna or put little icons around or logos, and it just means that it pops. So it's a really simple thing to do, and it's really quick. So something I'd really recommend doing kind of on your shopping feeds on Facebook to make them pop that little bit harder. And if you go in Facebook ads library, you can type in any company, it'll bring up their ads so you can see what your competitors are doing as well, to have a look and see.
You can also do that in Google as well, if nobody knows. The ads library is there for Google. Do a search, 3 dots, other ads from the advertiser, you can see their display ads and search ads.
And Pinterest and
there you go.
Pinterest, there we go. I can't tell you how rare it is also to have 2 media partners in the same room. How it got past legal, I don't know. But thank you very much, Pinterest and Google. So we're going to give a big round of applause. We're going to stand up. We're going to shake it off. We're going to change our little panel around. Come on, let's keep the applause going. Come on.